Welcome to Ascent. Philosophy for the celibate's heart. Begin the journey.
You know, I was scrolling through Reddit the other night.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, exactly. One of those relationship advice threads that are just, absolute train wrecks. And I had this realization.
What's that?
We have invented an entire dictionary of new words just to describe the specific ways we disappoint each other now.
It is a burgeoning vocabulary, isn't it? A whole new lexicon of letdowns.
It's exhaustive. You have ghosting, obviously. That's the classic. Everyone knows ghosting.
A foundational text.
Right. But now we have breadcrumbing, leaving just enough digital trails to keep someone on the hook. We have submarining.
I like that one.
Where they vanish for months and then just pop back up in your DMs like nothing happened. We have situationships. We have cushioning. It feels like we're trying to taxonomize our own anxiety.
It's like we're building a field guide for modern loneliness.
Yeah.
Here are the various species of avoidance you might encounter in the wild.
Exactly. And the thing is, we usually treat these as like glitches in the system.
Right.
Individual failings. Yeah. Oh, dating apps are trash, or people these days just have no manners. But what if I told you that this isn't just about bad dating etiquette? What if this inability to stay put, this constant itching to hit the delete button, is actually the defining sociological characteristic of our entire civilization?
That is a massive claim. But, when you look at the material we have for today, it is incredibly hard to argue against it.
Right.
We are not just dealing with commitment issues or people being flaky. We're dealing with a fundamental shift in the physics of human connection. It's like the gravity has been turned off.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are not just complaining about Hinge, though we could. We are trying to figure out why modern love feels so incredibly fragile.
So breakable.
And to do that, we are bringing out the heavy artillery. We are unpacking Zygmunt Bauman's sociological masterpiece, Liquid Love.
A book that is simultaneously brilliant and, I have to say, absolutely devastating.
It's a tough read emotionally. It really is. But we're not stopping there. Bauman gives us the diagnosis, and it is pretty bleak.
Extremely.
So, to balance the scales, we're going to view his work through the lens of Robert Solomon's philosophy on reinventing romance. We'll touch on some, ancient wisdom from Plato, and we'll even look at actual hard data from a massive open university study on enduring love.
It is the perfect stack, really.
Yeah.
Bauman tells us why we're sick, and then Solomon and the researchers maybe, just maybe, offer a way to get better.
But we have to start with the illness.
You have to.
We have to start with that title. Liquid love.
It's such a powerful metaphor.
It really is. So, liquid, that's the core concept. Bauman talks about liquid modernity. Before we even get to the romance part, we need to set the stage. What on earth does he mean by the world being liquid?
Well, to understand the liquid, you first have to understand what it replaced. Bauman calls the previous era solid modernity.
Okay, solid.
Think about the world your grandparents or maybe your great-grandparents lived in, say, post-World War II, maybe even earlier.
The era of heavy furniture and pensions.
That's a perfect way to put it, exactly. In solid modernity, the structures of life were heavy, they were fixed, they were immovable. You were born into a class, you were born into a neighborhood. You often inherited your religion, your political affiliation, and in many cases, even your trade.
It was a world where you knew where you stood. There wasn't a lot of ambiguity.
You stood on solid ground. If you got a job at a factory, say Ford or GM, the expectation from everyone, including you, was that you'd be there for 40 years.
And you'd get the gold watch at retirement.
You get the gold watch. And marriage was a core piece of that solid architecture. It was an institution. It was often an economic arrangement, sure, but it was viewed as fundamentally unbreakable.
But we shouldn't romanticize that, right? Because solid also means stuck.
Precisely. That is the trade-off, and it's a crucial one. Solid modernity offered immense security. You knew your place, you knew you probably wouldn't starve, you knew you wouldn't be totally alone, but it offered very, very little freedom. If you were unhappy, if you were in an abusive marriage, if you wanted to be a poet, but your father was a coal miner, well, too bad. The structures were stronger than the individual.
So high security, low freedom, a very clear equation.
Now, fast forward to today. Bauman argues that all those solids have melted.
How so?
The factory's closed or it's moved overseas. The job for life is a complete myth. We have the gig economy now. You don't have a career ladder. You have a career rock climbing wall where you're constantly jumping sideways, hoping you'll find another handhold.
You move cities for a 2-year contract, You change your entire skill set.
You reinvent your identity online every few years.
Yeah.
Everything is fluid, it flows, it changes shape.
It's liquid.
It is liquid. And Bauman's central point, and this is where it gets really sharp for relationships, is that you cannot live a liquid life in every other aspect and somehow expect to have solid relationships. It's a physics problem. They don't coexist.
Because a solid, heavy, immovable bond like a till death do us part marriage doesn't fit in a backpack.
It doesn't. If you need to be agile to survive in the modern economy, if you need to be ready to move to Tokyo for a year or switch from being a graphic designer to a coding expert overnight, a heavy relationship feels less like a foundation and more like an anchor.
It drags you down.
It limits your maneuverability. It makes you less competitive in the marketplace of life.
So in a liquid world, we are trained to view commitment as a liability.
We view it as a closing of doors. And in a world where opportunity and keeping your options open is the highest value, closing a door, any door, feels like a kind of death.
Okay, this sets up the mission for this deep dive perfectly. We need to explore this paradox. Because on the one hand, we're terrified of commitment because it limits our precious freedom. But on the other hand, and I think everyone listening feels this in their bones, we are absolutely desperate for connection. We are lonely.
We are incredibly lonely. And that is the central tension Bauman explores. We want to hold hands, but we don't want to be handcuffed. We want the warmth of the body, but we don't want the weight of the person.
This is a perfect place to start. Let's dive into section 1. Bauman actually introduces a character to illustrate all of this, a sort of protagonist for this liquid world. He calls him the man without dawns.
Der Mann ohne Verwandtschaften. It is such a striking image.
It really is.
In previous eras, you didn't have to go out and, network. Your network was given to you at birth. You were your family, your village, your guild. You were related by default.
You didn't have to build your social credit score from zero. It was assigned to you.
No. But the modern hero, this man without bonds, has none of that. He or she, of course, is completely untethered. Every single connection you have in your life, you had to actively go out and create.
You had to swipe, you had to text first, you had to go to the mixer, you had to put in the effort.
And because you built them, the implication is that it's all on you to maintain them. The burden of maintenance is entirely yours.
Right. And because you tied the knot yourself.
You can untie it. In fact, you're almost expected to untie it if it no longer serves you. This is where Bauman makes this really fascinating distinction between the verb relating and the noun relationship.
Okay, break that down for me. That sounds a little academic.
It does, but it's simple. In the liquid world, we love relating. We love the activity, the flirting, the witty banter over text, the late-night deep talks, the thrill of the first few dates. That's the verb. It is active, it is happening now, it's exciting.
But we are wary of the relationship, the noun.
Yes, because a noun is a fixed thing. It sits there, it has weight.
It implies a state of being. It implies duties and expectations. Relating is something I'm doing. A relationship is something I have to carry.
We want the action, not the status. We want the process, not the product.
This brings us right to the central conflict of the book, and really, I think the central conflict of our lives. The trade-off between freedom and security. Bauman seems to think you can't really have both, not fully.
He is quite brutal about this. He frames it almost as a zero-sum game. And I want you, the listener, to really sit with this, because the apps and the whole culture tell us we can have it all.
Right. The marketing is find your forever person while you also see who's nearby right now. It's both at once.
But look at the actual logic. Let's take it to the extreme. Total security.
Okay.
Knowing with 100% absolute certainty that your partner will never leave you. For that to be true, it requires removing their freedom to choose.
They would have to be unable to leave.
To be 100% secure, your partner would have to be stuck. They would be your property.
That's not a relationship, that's a hostage situation. Or slavery.
Exactly.
Yep.
Security without freedom is slavery.
Right.
But now, let's flip the coin. Total freedom. I have absolutely no obligations to anyone. I answer to no one. I can move to Bali tomorrow if I feel like it. I can sleep with whoever I want, whenever I want.
Sounds like the dream for a lot of people, the digital nomad influencer dream.
It is the influencer dream. But think about what it actually means. It means no one is obligated to care for you either. If you get sick, no one has to bring you soup. If you are sad, no one is duty-bound to listen. If you're in trouble, you're on your own. Total freedom is total insecurity. It is profound, terrifying loneliness.
So if you push the slider all the way to freedom, you create a massive deficit in security.
And Bauman argues that our entire liquid modernity has pushed that slider almost entirely toward freedom.
Yeah.
We have maximized our autonomy. We have never been freer to choose our partners, our careers, our identities.
But as a result,
we have created a culture of chronic, low-grade anxiety.
yeah.
We are free, but we are constantly looking over our shoulder, wondering if we're about to be disposed of, for a newer model.
This anxiety brings us to a concept Bauman discusses that I found really chilling. He calls it the pure relationship. It's a term he borrows from the sociologist Anthony Giddens.
Right.
Now, when I hear pure relationship, I think of something noble, like I love you purely without any ulterior motives.
It's a bit of a trap, that name. It sounds romantic, but sociologically, it's actually quite cold.
Okay, how so? What does it mean?
Giddens defines a pure relationship as one that is entered into for no other reason than the satisfaction it brings to the individuals involved. It is stripped or purified of all those old external reasons.
Like what?
You aren't together because your family's merged land. You aren't together because the church says you can't divorce.
Yeah.
You aren't even, in this model, primarily together for the kids.
You are together solely because you enjoy being together, period.
Right. And on the surface, that sounds amazing. A great liberation. It means we are together because we want to be.
But there's a but. I can hear it.
Here is the kicker. Here's the dark side of the pure relationship.
I'm ready for the bad news.
If the only reason we are together is because it satisfies us right now, then the moment the satisfaction drops,
The relationship is over. There's nothing else holding it up.
it dissolves. It has no external skeleton. It has no safety net. It is maintained only as long as it delivers sufficient emotional returns.
You're using economic language again. Returns. Delivers.
That is completely intentional. Bauman argues that in a pure relationship, partners essentially become shareholders in a volatile emotional market. You are constantly, consciously or not, evaluating the stock price of your partner.
Am I getting a good ROI, return on investment, this month from this person?
Is this relationship still meeting my needs?
That is terrifying because everyone has a bad quarter. Everyone.
Exactly. Maybe you get depressed. Maybe you lose your job and you're just stressed and grumpy for 6 months. Maybe you just get boring for a little while.
It happens.
In a solid relationship, that external structure, the vows, the community, the shared assets, it holds you together through the slump. In a liquid, pure relationship, a slump is a signal to sell your stock.
Apple is down. Buy Tesla. My boyfriend is depressed, so I should probably download Tinder again.
And the anxiety comes from the fact that both parties know this. It's the unspoken contract. Even if we are happy today, I know that you know that if I stop making you happy, you're not just free to leave, you are almost expected to leave. For your own good.
So I can never fully relax. I can never be my worst self because my worst self might get fired from the relationship.
It is exactly like being on a permanent probationary period at work. You are always auditioning for your own life.
Wow.
And Bauman says this makes relationships frail. We enter them believing they are fragile, so we treat them as fragile. We are afraid to lean on them too hard to show our messy selves lest they break, so we never test their strength, and as a result, they remain weak.
This leads us perfectly into the next section, consuming people. Because if
Yeah.
we're treating relationships like a stock portfolio, we are definitely treating potential partners like products on a shelf.
The consumerist model. This is Bauman at his most biting and I think his most accurate. He argues that we are trained from birth to be consumers. It is our primary identity in the modern world.
We don't identify as citizens anymore, or parishioners.
We identify as consumers, we vote with our wallets, and what do consumers expect?
Instant gratification, money-back guarantees, no-risk trials.
Exactly. If you buy a toaster and it burns the toast, you return it. You don't get out a screwdriver and take it apart and try to fix the heating element. It's defective. You want a new one.
So why would we switch that mindset off when we go on Hinge?
We don't. That's his point.
All right.
We can't. We apply the same logic. We treat partners like cars.
Explain that.
In the old days, solid modernity, if your car broke down, you fixed it. It was your car. You had a relationship with the machine. You knew its quirks.
My grandpa could fix anything on his old Ford.
Right. Today, if a car starts making a funny noise, or more importantly, if a new model comes out with a bigger screen and heated seats, what do? You trade it in. We don't repair, we replace.
I see this constantly on the apps. The checklist. Must be 6'2", must have the graduate degree, must love dogs but not cats, must like hiking but not like too much hiking. It's like building a custom order at Chipotle.
It is. And if the order arrives and there's a mistake, he has an annoying laugh, or her politics aren't exactly what I thought, we feel entitled to send it back. We feel like we've been swindled. This is not the product I ordered.
There's a specific term from the source material that really stuck with me. It's a visual I just can't get out of my head. The top pocket relationship.
Yes. This comes from a sociologist named Catherine Jarvie, who Bauman cites. It's a brilliant, brilliant metaphor.
So what is it?
A top pocket relationship is one you keep handy, literally in your pocket, like a smartphone or a handkerchief, to bring out only when you need it.
It sounds so utilitarian.
It is entirely utilitarian. You need fun. Take it out of the pocket. You need sex. Take it out. You need a +1 for a wedding so you don't look like a loser in front of your family. Take it out of the pocket. But the crucial part of the definition is that you can put it right back in.
When it becomes a burden.
Yes.
Yeah.
When they start talking about their trauma or their sick mother, or God forbid, they just want to sit in silence and be sad, you put them back in the pocket.
It requires no protracted effort.
None. Bauman says it is sweet because it is short-lived and, most importantly, completely controlled by you.
It feels like a halfway house between the pain of loneliness and the, quote, crushing weight of commitment. You get the dopamine hit of connection, but you avoid the mess.
And avoiding the mess is the primary goal of the liquid lover. This leads to what Bauman calls semi-detached couples. We see the rise of living apart together, or LAT.
Right. People who are a couple, but they have separate apartments.
Separate addresses, separate bank accounts, separate lives, really.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. Isn't that just smart? If the world is unstable, why merge your assets? Why risk your housing security on a romance that has a 50% chance of failing? It feels rational.
It is rational. That is the tragedy of it all. In a liquid world, hedging your bets is the only rational strategy. But think about what that does to the nature of the bond itself. It fundamentally changes it.
It turns till death do us part into,
Until further notice.
I take thee until I get bored, or you get annoying, or I find someone who is a slightly better fit for my current lifestyle.
And think about the psychological impact of that.
Yeah.
If you know deep down that a bond is temporary by design, you will not invest deep resources into it.
You won't plant an oak tree in a garden you're only renting for a month?
You plant flowers,
Yeah.
quick, pretty, disposable. You're not going to do the hard work of, say, couples therapy if you're operating assumptions that this is probably going to end anyway. Why bother?
And because you don't invest deeply, the relationship never grows strong roots. So when the first storm comes, an argument, a job loss, it just blows over.
Exactly. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We claim relationships are frail, so we treat them as frail, and thus they crumble. We engineered the failure from day one by trying to protect ourselves from it.
This is heavy. And I feel like we have to talk about the technology side of this, because the smartphone is the engine that's making all of this possible on a mass scale. Bauman talks about virtual connections versus real relationships.
Yes, and he draws a very sharp, very important distinction. A relationship, in his view, takes work. It involves friction. It involves negotiation. It involves smelling someone's morning breath and dealing with their bad moods and having arguments you can't just walk away from.
A connection, on the other hand.
A connection is virtual, it's clean, it is easy to enter, and crucially, it is easy to break.
Ghosting.
The delete key, or the block button, is the ultimate tool of liquid love. It allows us to dispose of a human being without ever having to face the messiness of a breakup conversation, without ever having to see their pain.
It's emotional hygiene. You just wipe them away like a smudge on a screen.
And we prefer these connections because they are controllable. Bauman talks about this phenomenon of electronic proximity. We see it everywhere. People sitting on a train, physically next to each other. Their shoulders are literally touching, but they are totally ignored. They're on their phones, texting with people miles and miles away.
Being physically present but socially absent.
We are connected to the absent, but we are isolated from the present. And you have to ask why.
Why do we do that?
Because the person on the phone can be controlled. I can text back when I feel like it. I can edit my response 3 times. I can send a funny GIF instead of expressing a real, vulnerable feeling. The person sitting next to me on the train, they're unpredictable, they smell, they might talk to me when I don't want them to. They are a stranger.
This leads to that concept he has of mixophobia. It sounds like a fear of blenders, but it's about cities originally, right?
Right. Bauman uses it in urban studies to describe our modern drive to build gated communities, to wall ourselves off from the dangerous poor or the unpredictable other. But in love, he says, we build gated communities of the self.
Wow.
We fear the stranger, which is really the other person's messy, unpredictable, autonomous reality. We use technology to build walls around ourselves. We only allow carefully filtered versions of people to come in.
We want the avatar, not the human.
We want the curated profile. Because the human requires compromise. The human requires us to change and adapt. The avatar just reflects back what we want to see.
You know, there's an Emerson quote that Bauman uses that really, really haunts me. In skating over thin ice, our salvation is in our speed.
This is the perfect metaphor for the digital dating age.
It's everything.
If the ice, the quality and depth of our bonds, is thin and liable to crack at any moment, we cannot stand still. If we stand still and put all our weight on one spot, we sink. We fall through into the cold water of loneliness.
So we have to keep moving.
We have to keep moving. Swipe, match, chat, meet, get disappointed, delete, repeat.
Speed replaces depth. Quantity replaces quality.
If I have 500 matches on an app, it doesn't matter if one of them rejects me or ghosts me. I have redundancy. The speed, the sheer volume of connections, protects us from the pain of any single one breaking.
Okay, I need a lifeline here. I really do. We're deep in the Bauman hole, and it is dark down here. It makes me feel like true love is structurally impossible in the 21st century.
I know, it's bleak.
We are just doomed to skate until we inevitably fall through the ice. But we have other books in the stack. Is there another way to look at this? A way out?
There is. And this is where we need to pivot. Bauman gives us the diagnosis, and I think it is a brilliant and correct diagnosis of the symptoms, but he doesn't really offer a cure.
He's the diagnostician, not the surgeon.
Exactly. For that, we turn to the philosopher Robert Solomon and his book, Reinventing Romance. And we're going to look at Plato, too.
Save us, Solomon, please.
So Bauman looks at all this fluidity, and he sees anxiety and decay. Solomon looks at the nature of love and suggests that maybe we have been looking at it all wrong for a very, very long time.
What does he mean?
He starts by attacking a very famous, very powerful myth that I think we all secretly believe. The Aristophanes myth from Plato's Symposium.
Is that the one about the soulmates? Finding your other half?
Yes. It's the origin story of the one. The myth basically says that humans were originally these round creatures with 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 faces. We were incredibly powerful.
And the gods got jealous?
The gods feared our power. So Zeus took a sword and sliced us all in half. And ever since, we've been wandering the earth, sad and alone, looking for our missing half.
You complete me. The famous line from Jerry Maguire, it's the basis of every rom-com ever made.
It's the entire foundation of our romantic culture.
Yeah.
But think about the toxic implication of that myth.
Which is?
It says that love is about finding something that is already out there, fully formed. It's a treasure hunt. If I find the right person, the puzzle piece will just click perfectly into place and I will be whole.
And if it doesn't click perfectly or if there's friction, it just means I haven't found the right one yet. So I need to go back to the apps and keep searching.
Precisely. The myth makes us passive shoppers. It encourages the exact consumerist mindset that Bauman hates. Solomon argues this is a complete disaster for modern relationships.
So what's his alternative?
He says love isn't about finding a soulmate, it's about creating a shared self.
Creating, that's a verb. That implies work. That implies construction and effort.
It implies a process, not a discovery. Solomon introduces this concept he calls the dialectic of love.
Okay, dialectic is a fancy philosophy word. I feel like I learned that in college and immediately forgot it. Break that down for the listener. Explain it like I'm 5.
A dialectic is basically a conversation, or a tension, between 2 opposing forces that, through their conflict, results in something new and more complex. Think of it like a thesis and an antithesis clashing to create a synthesis.
Okay, so what are the opposing forces in love?
In love, the forces are the individual, which is our need for autonomy, and the union, which is our desire for a shared identity.
Wait a second, isn't that the exact same conflict Bauman talked about, freedom versus security?
It is the same conflict, but the framing is completely different, and this is the key. Bauman sees it as a zero-sum game. If you choose freedom, you lose security, and vice versa. Solomon sees it as a dynamic engine.
An engine.
He says that tension never goes away, and it shouldn't go away. The conflict is the relationship. It's the source of its energy and its life.
So we aren't supposed to solve the problem of freedom versus togetherness.
No. You are supposed to live inside it. You are supposed to fight for your autonomy while simultaneously learning to surrender parts of it. That constant push-pull is what makes love alive.
So it's not a bug, it's a feature.
It's the central feature. If you completely merge and lose your individual self, the relationship becomes boring. You lose the other person you fell in love with. If you completely separate and prioritize only your autonomy, you broke up. The love lives in the tension between the two poles.
So if I feel like I'm losing myself in a relationship, that's not necessarily a sign that it's wrong or that I need to run away.
No. It's a sign that the dialectic is happening. It's a signal to negotiate, to talk, to redefine the boundaries. Solomon defines intimacy not just as sharing secrets or sexual nakedness, but as shared identity.
Okay, but what does that mean?
True intimacy is when you begin to redefine who you are in terms of the other person.
Give me a concrete example of that. What does redefining identity look like on a random Tuesday?
Okay, think about a couple deciding where to live. If I am Bauman's man without bonds, a totally autonomous individual, I move to wherever my job takes me, period. My identity is career man. It's a simple, efficient calculation.
I am moving to New York for this promotion. End of story.
But if I am in a shared identity, the question, where do I live, becomes, where do we live?
Yeah.
My own self-interest is now fundamentally complicated by your existence. I might take a lesser job to be in a city where you can thrive. I am redefining my success as our success.
And Bauman would say that in liquid modernity, we are terrified of that redefinition.
Because we might need to change again next week. If I redefine myself as part of us and then us dissolves, who am I? I've lost myself. That is the terror. If I give up the great job for you and then you leave me, I've lost the job and the girl.
That is the ultimate risk. You could lose everything.
But Solomon's point is, you have to do it anyway. That risk is the price of admission for real love. You cannot have the reward without the risk.
Solomon also has this great metaphor about love being like a garden versus an amphetamine.
Yes. This is crucial for understanding why we break up so much. We often treat love like a chemical high in amphetamine. We fall in love. We get the rush, the butterflies, the obsession.
The honeymoon phase. It's the best drug on earth.
It is. And then, inevitably, biology takes over. The tolerance builds up, the crash comes, the butterflies stop fluttering. You look at the person across the breakfast table and you just see a normal human being eating cereal loudly.
And our immediate assumption is that the love is dead. I just don't feel the spark anymore.
Precisely. We confuse the high of falling in love with the act of loving. Solomon says love is not a feeling, it is a structure, is a garden. A garden doesn't die because the seasons changed. It dies because of neglect.
You have to water it and weed it and turn the soil.
And reinvent it. That's the word in his title. You have to reinvent the garden for the new season.
So love requires constant reinvention.
You are not the same person you were 5 years ago, and neither is your partner. If you are stuck in a solid, rigid idea of who you were when you first met, the relationship will crack under the pressure of your own growth. You have to be liquid within the commitment. You have to flow together.
So Bauman says liquidity destroys bonds, but Solomon seems to be saying that a certain kind of liquidity, this internal adaptability, is actually what saves them.
That is a brilliant synthesis, yes. The bad liquidity is revocability, the freedom to leave when it gets hard. The good liquidity is flexibility, the freedom to change and grow so that you can stay together through new challenges.
Let's bring in the data, because philosophy is nice, but I want to know what people are actually doing. You mentioned the Open University study on enduring love. What did they find?
This is really important because it challenges Bauman's bleakest conclusions. Bauman can sometimes make it seem like we're all drifting apart, that we're all just becoming top-pocket daters. But the data shows that people do still value long-term bonds. Deeply.
We want to stay. Deep down, most of us want to build something that lasts.
We do. We're not all happy wanderers. But the form of that staying has changed. For example, Bauman and the sociologist Elizabeth Beck-Gernsheim point out that for many people, the primary unbreakable bond has shifted. It's no longer the marriage partner, it's the child.
Oh, wow. The parent-child bond is the last solid thing in a liquid world.
Exactly. Partners come and go, divorce rates are still high, but I will always be your mother, or I will always be your father. That is the last bastion of unconditional security. We pour all of our desperate need for a solid connection into our kids.
Which would explain the helicopter parent phenomenon, wouldn't it? It's not just about the kid's safety, it's about the parent's own emotional anxiety. I need one thing in my life that won't leave me.
Correct. And it places a tremendous, often unfair burden on the child to be the emotional anchor for the parent's life. But regarding couples, the Open University study found that couples can endure. And interestingly, when they looked at what made love last, it wasn't the grand romantic gestures.
It wasn't the trips to Paris or the diamond rings.
No, it was the small, mundane stuff. bringing your partner a cup of tea in bed without being asked, the small daily acts of service, the constant low-key maintenance of the garden.
Which connects to something else, right? C.S. Lewis's distinction between need love and gift love.
It does. We're really covering the bases today.
We are.
So Lewis said need love is essentially, I love you because you make me feel good. It's consumerist. It's Giddens' pure relationship in another guise. I need you to fill a hole in me.
I need you to make me feel secure. I need you to validate my ego. I need you because I'm lonely.
And gift love is different. It's I love you simply to love you. It flows out regardless of the return on investment. It's an overflowing. Bauman's liquid relationships are almost entirely based on need love. What are you doing for me right now?
So to escape the liquid trap, Solomon and Lewis would argue that we have to consciously try to move toward gift love, but that's incredibly risky. If I give and you don't give back, I'm a fool.
Then you get hurt, of course. But here is the paradox where both Bauman and Solomon actually, surprisingly, agree. The role of uncertainty.
Wait, I thought we were trying to get rid of uncertainty. Isn't that the whole source of the anxiety?
We try to, but we shouldn't want to eliminate it completely. Solomon argues that if you fully possess the other person, if you had 100% security, if they were a robot programmed to never leave you, you couldn't actually desire them.
Because desire requires a gap. It requires a you over there that I want to reach that isn't just an extension of me.
Exactly. Love requires the other person to remain sovereign, to be their own person, to be slightly out of reach. That stranger that Bauman says we fear. We also need a little bit of that stranger to keep the spark, the eros, alive. If I know everything you're going to say before you say it, I'm bored to death.
So the goal isn't to lock someone in a basement so they can never leave. That's not security. That's just misery for everyone.
The goal is to learn to live in the uncertainty, to live in the liquid world, but to make a choice within it, a real choice with a capital C, to stand there and say, I know you could leave. I know I could leave. The door's unlocked. And because the door's unlocked, the fact that I am sitting here in this chair next to you, choosing to be here, actually means something profound.
That's powerful. The freedom is what gives the commitment its value.
Precisely. In the solid world of the past, you stayed married because you had to. The village would shun you, the church would damn you, you'd starve economically. There's no real moral credit in staying when you have no other choice.
But today, if I stay with you and I could be back on Tinder in 5 seconds, that's a radical act.
It is the ultimate compliment. It says, I could be anywhere in the world with theoretically anyone, but I am choosing to be here right now, tackling this problem with you.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. Let's try to synthesize this. We've gone from the deep anxiety of the top pocket relationship through the consumerism of modern dating, all the way to the hard philosophical work of the dialectic.
Bauman diagnoses the symptom. We are commodifying people because we are terrified of pain. We are skating fast to avoid sinking into the cold water.
And Solomon, along with the poets and the data, offers the cure. Stop trying to find a finished product. Stop looking for the mythical soulmate who is already perfect for you. Start building a shared self, brick by messy brick.
And crucially, recognize that the inefficiency of love, the time it takes, the arguments, the mess it creates, the risk it involves, that's not a bug in the system. It is the whole point.
We are trying to apply market logic to the human heart.
And they are incompatible operating systems. Market logic is about efficiency, disposability, and interchangeability. Heart logic is about uniqueness, patience, and endurance. It doesn't work.
You can't optimize intimacy. You can't put it on a spreadsheet.
You cannot. You can only live it.
So for the listener who is sitting there right now, maybe looking at their phone, feeling that mixophobia, that fear of the messy stranger, what's the final aha moment we leave them with?
The final thought is this. In a liquid world, where everything and everyone is presented as disposable, where you can delete a human being with a single thumb swipe, the most rebellious, the most punk rock, the most radical thing you can possibly do is to stay.
To choose to build something solid on the thin ice.
To treat a person not as a connection to be consumed and discarded, but as a partner in a difficult, lifelong dialectic.
To refuse to look for the easy, pure relationship that only serves you, and instead to engage in the messy, difficult, frightening, but ultimately meaningful work of creating a shared history. It's scary.
It is terrifying. But the alternative is what Bauman showed us at the beginning. It's being a man without bonds, free, unencumbered, agile, and completely, utterly alone.
I think I'll take the mess.
I think that is the wise choice.
That's all for this deep dive. We've unpacked Bauman, Solomon, and the state of modern love. And maybe the final challenge is this. Put down the phone, go find a real human, and maybe, just maybe, don't look for the exit sign the moment it gets awkward.
And stay in the friction.
Yeah.
That's where the good stuff is.
Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.